I want to start off with the first story about Canada folds to Trump and cancels bombshell electricity tariff. And this is a big one because I don't know if you guys saw the market yesterday. Tom, I'm going to come to you with this one here at first.
Okay.
Canada reversed its 25% electricity tariff on Michigan, New York, and Minnesota after President Trump threatened severe financial repercussions, with Ontario Premier Doug Ford announcing in response Ontario agreed to suspend its 25% surcharge on exports of electricity to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. Rob, if you got the clip, if you want to play, and then I'll tell you more about it here. Go for it, Rob.
Well, just a little while ago, I had an opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick. And Secretary Lutnick has sent out an olive branch to us to come down and immediately meet with him, meet with the whole trade administration, and discuss the future. Rather than waiting till April the 2nd, threats going back and forth, tit for tat, I've agreed to suspend temporarily, and we always have that tool in our toolkit, until we sit down over the next day or two. I'll be heading down to Washington along with Dominic LeBlanc. And
Rob, how long is this
good
clip,
discussion.
Rob?
He goes on for about 3 minutes.
Oh, we're not going to play that for, especially the monotone voice that he has. But so, anyways, long story short, what happens is they caved, and I'll read this next part to you. Trump, who declared a national emergency on electricity and double tariffs on Canada, steel, and aluminum to 50% in response to Ford's initial tariffs, suggested Canada join the U.S. 51st state. Canada should honestly become our 51st state. We would have a northern border problem. We wouldn't have a northern border problem. We wouldn't have a tariff problem, while also threatening to permanently shut down Canada's auto sector with higher car tariffs on April 2nd unless Canada drops its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. dairy and agricultural products. Tom.
So this guy, Doug Ford, to let you all know who he is, he's the Premier of Ontario. So he's the governor of Ontario, and he carries as much weight as Gavin Newsom does as a governor of California, or DeSantis does, the governor of Florida, being very large U.S. states. So that's who this guy is. And he says, right along the border, we've been selling electricity to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. Because if you know, Buffalo is right there on the Canadian border. There's U.S. cities that are there. And he said, hey, we're going to tariff, the electricity that we're selling to these people. Never mind that these have been very level electrical treaties for a long time. And so Trump turns his head and said, okay, make it 50% on steel and aluminum. Well, Ottawa gets a hold of Doug Ford and says, hey, dude, you're like the governor of Ontario. Can you let us do this from the capital of Canada? Should you be speaking up like this? And Doug Ford let him know. He says, I've been summoned to Washington. That's what he was just saying. Yeah, Secretary Lutnick asked me to, let's not wait till April. Why don't you come to Washington? No, it goes like this. Listen, Governor, why don't you get your ass down to Washington and we can talk about this right now. Meanwhile, my boss, Trump, just raised the tariffs on this. And guess what? He runs to the microphone, not in Parliament, but in a freaking empty room, speaking in a monotone like a kid that just got caught coming home late on a date by his mom. Hey, it's midnight. You're supposed to be home by 10 o'clock. And he's just sitting there stunned. And guess what happens? This is a microcosm of when power and policy meets small retaliatory threat. And he broke the guy. And there have been these memes all over the place. There's now, I broke some guy from Ontario. Whack, right over his knee. And that's what happened. And so this is how I have been saying tariffs often are going to be tactics, not long-term taxes. Will they upset the markets a little bit? Will they do a little bit? Sure. But look how they're breaking and backing off.
How did the market react yesterday?
Yesterday, the market was green. It wasn't up 5%, but guess what? Tesla was up 7%. NVIDIA was up 6.5%. And the major indexes, I think 3 of the 4 indexes, because you got the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P 500, they were up like 0.5%, demonstrating a settling, which shows you even the most minor news that says, hey, some of these tariffs are calming down, the market immediately calms down. There's a long way to go, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's still uncertainty, but the markets immediately calmed yesterday.
Rob, where's the article that says how much money was lost in the stock market just the last few days. I saw a number that said $1.5 trillion. I don't know what the number was. If you can see if you can look it up. It's one of these pages that we had.
And see if it's an 11th story or a 12th story.
That's it's going to be on the 11th story. But there's a point here on what you're saying, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is, the fears of recession. A lot of people connected me yesterday like, oh my God, Pat, from your tone, you kind of worried that it may be a recession, all this other stuff. Guys, let me just simplify it for you guys. For those who fear, here's where and when we made our money, okay? When it came down to crisis. 2006, 2007, 2008 was the second biggest time where I was able to really see growth in my business was when the mortgage crash happened in 08. Everybody was afraid. We doubled down. We played offense. After 9/11 happened, everybody was scared. That's when I became a stockbroker. Everybody was leaving the industry. That's when I went into the industry. COVID happened. Everybody was scared. Oh my God, what about this and what about that? And what are we going to do? We played offense. It was the biggest year and biggest month of our careers was a month after when COVID first started happening, March 14th. Was it April or May? That was the biggest record-breaking month that we did almost $2.5–3 million of EBITDA that month. I don't know what the month was. It must have been April or May, if you remember that, 2020. Everybody was scared. Everybody's like, oh my God, do I shut down my office? Do I close down my office? Do I close down this? Do I do this? Do I not reinvest into the business? What about if I go this side? Here's the reality of it. When it comes down to the current talks about recession, I want to kind of bring two things to people. One, we had technically, by definition, a recession under Biden by having two consecutive back-to-back quarters where the GDP didn't grow. Number two, there's three types of people right now in the marketplace. There's those who hate Trump. There's those who don't follow politics. They're neutral. And then there's those that voted for Trump. Let's go through all three of them. Those who hate Trump, they are dying for the market to, drop and crash. They're celebrating. They want to see it happen. They want to see this guy fail miserably. They want to see it fail. A guy on CNN, Rob, if you can pull up this clip and find it, is showing the fact that, under Biden, the inflation was going up and up and up, and everybody was worried. And we were not expecting for these numbers to show up, but it looks like inflation has dropped for the first time under Trump. That's the number right there. Can you pull that up, Rob? Watch this clip, guys. CNN is having a hard time reporting good news on inflation. Watch this clip. Go for it.
Finally, we have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8% year over year, 0.2% month over month. Both of these figures were a step in the right direction, and both were better than expected. So this is definitely very encouraging to see, because it's going to, I think, relieve some fears that inflation was perhaps re-accelerating, because this actually breaks a streak of 4 straight months where I think you could see it on the chart all the way to the right, where the inflation rate was going in the wrong direction, right? It was going higher and higher. Finally, we're seeing it dip.
Okay, so you see a number like that. It's like, oh my God, we don't want to report that. Market doesn't want to see that. So the people that don't like Trump, don't be surprised when they are, rooting for the failure or for him to drop. The people that are in the middle, you're like, look, I don't really care. I'm just a business guy. I'm just trying to make a little bit more money. I don't want to lose any money in the market. What do I do with this? Be patient and understand the fact that there's going to be certain seasons you're going through this, but don't make decisions of long-term decisions based on a 1 month, whatever's happening. And those of you guys that are under Trump, we talked about this yesterday. The analogy I used is when back in the days, Amazon on quarterly calls, investors used to say, hey, how come you're not paying dividends? Others are paying dividends. Why are you not paying dividends? And then Jeff Bezos was like, look, if you're wanting a return on a stock for 1 month, 2 months, or a year, we're not the stock for you. Sell off. If you want to be with us long term, we're going to build a very good business long term. People benefited. The same as you hire a new head coach, they're bringing new ideas. These guys are coming up with revolutionary ideas we've never seen before. The market is going to take a bit of a hit. We just have to be a little bit patient about it while we're going through it. Adam, your thoughts on this?
So the gentleman, I forget his name,
Lutnick?
The guy from
Doug Ford, Premier.
Doug Ford.
There he is, Premier Ontario.
He said a word, tit for tat, right? So what's happening, these, what are they called, reciprocal tariffs? And it seems to be a negotiation tactic from Trump. So it's sort of an economic game of chicken. Trump is doing what I would call economic nationalism, economic warfare, America first. He also calls it common sense versus global economics, which we've been very much railing against the globalist agenda. But here's the point. Trump is very adamant he wants to get out of these unfair trade deals. He feels that America has been taken advantage of for 40 years, and he wants to level the playing field. It's almost like having a tough conversation with a friend. Let's not forget, Canada's not our enemy. Mexico's not our enemy. It's almost like when you have to have a tough conversation with a friend and be like, look, bro, I don't like how you're handling some things. You're dating the wrong girl. You're doing drugs. You owe me money. You're not paying. You're my friend. I want the best for you. But we really need to have this tough conversation. And the market is not taking this well because there's one thing that the market like. It's what, Tom? Certainty and clarity. You're seeing all these stories right now. All these CEOs, they're like, dude, we're with you. We won't say anything. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal. They're not speaking out. But privately, CEOs are basically like, what is this guy doing? And they want clarity.
Did you see Lutnick's response? Rob, can you play Lutnick's response?
I really like this.
Watch this.
I really like Lutnick.
So you're saying when it looks chaotic and unpredictable from the outside, that there actually is a master plan when it comes to these tariffs?
It is not chaotic. And the only one who thinks it's chaotic is someone who's being silly. He said reciprocal tariffs.
Nobody expected him to announce 50% tariffs this morning.
He needed to break some guy in Ontario who said he was going to tax American energy 25%. The President of the United States in the White House says, oh, no, you won't, and breaks him. Breaks him. In what? By a tweet and a truth. And you think that's chaotic? You know what I think that is? I think that is the thank God we have a president who's taking care of us. Because if you were in one of those states and you thought your energy prices were going to go up 25%, and you said, where's the president? And all of a sudden he came down like thunder to make that end, you'd say, cool. I'm glad that's the guy in the White House. And that's what we've got.
I don't like the way he explains it. You know what's a great thing? He explains it in a way that even a guy like you understand and say, I like that. I like what he's saying.
I love that guy. And Pep, my thought on the whole thing just with Canada, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday on Unusuals. Canada, especially with their leadership, is not the people. They're that yapping little dog that's behind the fence, just and then once you open the gate, they're just like, oh, just like with the Doug guy, just like with Justin Trudeau. They act like they're tough because they know. Think about location-wise on the planet where they are. They are attached to the #1 country in the history of the world, the United States. They know nobody's going to mess with them. They know nobody can attack them. But they bark. This guy talks all that trash, Pat, but when it comes down to it, they buckle and they fold just like that. And these Democrats drive me crazy because no matter what happens, okay, and we talked about this today at breakfast, Tom, they want change. They want the government to be fixed. They want Doge. They want people to have accountability. But then when it starts happening, they're all complaining because it hurts. And what was your analogy this morning, Tom?
Yeah, there's a drought in the Midwest and there's 5 farmers. And they all want it to rain. But one farmer in the middle, farmer number 3, goes, wait a minute, I don't want it to rain on this weekend. I'm throwing a picnic. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, you all wanted rain. It's going to be here. Yeah. You know, I got a reply from a guy on X, and God bless you because this is the right analogy. He said, I don't get it. For those of us that love our NFL teams, we defend our owner and we defend our coach, and we've got a new draft pick and we're rebuilding. And everybody that criticizes us says, man, you got to give the coach time. We got a new draft pick. We're rebuilding. Why are you so down on us? We'll be back. You watch. And guess what? People are not giving. Actually, the Democrats refuse to give Trump even a moment to have some of this stuff gain traction. And now you have our Secretary of Commerce over there explaining clearly, and look at the way she was aggressive in that. Oh, you didn't think it was going to be 50% and chaotic. This is not chaotic. This is a guy coming down like thunder and fixing it. And those people that are there that are not having their electricity go up are saying, I'm glad that guy's in the White House.
So I like this guy, Howard Lutnick. And of course, he's going to defend the policies because he's the Secretary of Commerce. He's at the head of the tip of the spear for this.
Part of them are his policies.
But let's call a spade here. There's a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace, and we're paying the price from it in our 401ks, in our Roth IRAs, in our brokerage accounts, in our crypto accounts. Everyone's lost 10% of their wealth, especially if they're in the markets. So here's I just sent you
on paper
something on paper. Of course, CEOs don't plan to openly question Trump. Ask again if the market crashes 20%. They're basically saying, look, we don't like this. We don't know what's going on. We're not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything, but we will if it starts going a little bit lower. Here's an article. Goldman Sachs, your friend David Solomon, CEO of Goldman Sachs, says CEOs want policy certainty from Trump. This isn't a lightweight guy. This is the CEO of Goldman Sachs. He's basically saying the tariffs and what's happening, these reciprocal tariffs, is causing a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. And if we know anything about the market again, they want stability, they want certainty, they want this stable genius, Trump, to stabilize what's going on. Last point, Trump's a marketing genius. Everything he did was 3 words: build the wall, drain the swamp, lock her up. Come up with a phrase that is easily digestible, that everyone can understand, to explain what he's actually doing. Because right now, he's like a chaos candidate. I agree with what he's doing, but he needs to market it better.
How about trust
because
the
the
boss?
markets are like, what do we do? Look, specifically it says, the tariff uncertainty is stalling deals. These are billion-dollar deals from Goldman Sachs. The level of uncertainty
Read the full
is
quote.
a little
Keep
bit
reading.
higher, and it has kept some things on the sidelines.
A little bit higher has kept some things on the sidelines, and yet liberal Bloomberg shouts it from the rooftops.
But by the way,
But this is David Solomon saying.
and by the way, do you think David Solomon voted for Trump?
100%.
You think he's a Trump guy?
I don't think he's a Trump guy. I think he voted for him, though.
You think he voted for him, but he's not a Trump guy.
There's a lot of those.
So Rob, can you play this clip real quick of him saying this to Honey
Maria Bartiromo.
Play this real quick.
Money, honey.
You were at the Business Roundtable yesterday. Several major banks revising their economic forecast in the midst of this tariff uncertainty, including Goldman Sachs economists, by the way. What can you tell us in terms of your reaction and the impact of tariffs on the economy and your business?
Well, I was at the Business Roundtable yesterday, and I'd start, Maria, by just observing that one of the things that I do like is that the president is engaged with the business community. Yeah. The administration is engaged with the business community. Good. And that's a different experience than what we've had over the course of the last 4 years. I'd also observe, his sense of optimism in the engagement yesterday at the BRT. I think the business community understands what the president is trying to do with tariffs. Now, the business community is always going to want lower tariffs everywhere in the world. At the moment, there's some uncertainty. The market's digesting that, but we're going to have to watch and see how this all plays out.
Yeah, and you've got other things within the president's agenda that occurs to me to be very positive for your company, Goldman Sachs, as well as corporate America in general. I'm talking about the deregulation. Cutting regulations is a huge thing, and that's going to have a big impact, the extension of the tax cuts. So I want to get your sense on the macro story right now, David, because initially President Trump did not want to make a prediction. You heard him in that soundbite when I spoke with him on Sunday. That caused this massive sell-off in stocks. Yesterday, he did say, I don't see a recession coming. How would you assess the backdrop in terms of animal spirits? Do you see M&A and IPOs picking up for you at Goldman? Are things that used to be on the shelf now coming off the shelf, if you will?
There's no question that activity levels are slightly better than they've been over the course of the last 24 months. But there's still an enormous amount of pent-up demand, Maria, both for capital markets activity and M&A activity. I would say at this moment, the level of uncertainty is a little bit higher, and that has kept some things on the sidelines.
So then let me say this, Rob, if you can pause it. Whatever that quote article that we read, they chose one sentence of it and left out the 80% of what David was saying here. But this is what I'll tell you. How many IPOs do we have in 2024, Rob? Can you pull it up? How many IPOs do we have in 2023? How many do we have in 2022? I'm curious. How's the IPO market been doing?
Not great.
If you can look up IPOs in 2024 was what? 225. How many do we have in 2023? 154. Go to 2022. Go to 2022 IPOs. What was the number? 2022, 181. Go to 80. By the way, look at the number. No, go to it to see what that is. It was 83% lower than 2021.
Whoa.
1,035. Okay, 1,035, give or take. So go one more, Rob, which was an all-time high in 2021. So go 2021, 1,035 IPOs. Go to 2020, because a lot of those are SPACs as well. 480.
Exactly.
So the point with this is, we can sit there and say people were scared about doing anything with the market the last 2 years. the last 3 years, 2024, 2023, 2022. We're going to see what's going to happen with that, with the economy. Pull up the Reuters article. This is all people see. The people see this. The average person only reads this. The U.S. market loses $4 trillion in value as Trump plows ahead on tariffs. That's the only number they see. What they see is the fact that the Magnificent Seven lost $750 billion in market value on Monday, just on Monday. So, oh my God, NASDAQ registered its worst day since 2022. Tariff fears, growth concerns have, rocketed technology stocks. They read this. They read American whiskey motorcycles to be hit with 50% tariffs in Europe. They see headlines. They see numbers like that, and that scares them. And unfortunately, there's a big part of the market you're not going to be able to control. But the way Lutnick, himself, and others are handling it, they're showing poise. They're like, hey, if you're in it, hang tight. We got to go through it. And but Lutnick said something very interesting. He says, it's so funny. Are you guys not for zero taxes on tips? Are you not for zero taxes on overtime? Are you not for zero tax on Social Security? How come you're not celebrating that stuff? Why are you not talking about this stuff? So this may take place in the interim. I see this being extremely volatile for the next few weeks, maybe a few months. But if you want to really come back and judge on how terrible this is, my opinion, Q4, Q1 of next year, if it's still this bad, Q1 of next year, then they got a problem ahead of midterms.
So how familiar are you with this Optimism Index? Did you read into that story at all, by the way?
Which one is that?
So here's a story right here. Small businesses report second highest level of uncertainty in 39 years. So it's almost what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't believe the hype. Don't fall for the headlines. Because I actually did a lot of research on this. So I'm thinking, holy moly, Trump is killing small businesses. The highest level of uncertainty in 39 years. Oh my God. We've heard about the misery index, right? Mm-hmm. Which is basically, we've talked about it with Iran.
Inflation plus unemployment.
Inflation plus unemployment. I'm like, what the hell is this Optimism Index? And here's what I found. And it almost proves your point, PBD. So the Optimism Index has dropped quite significantly. It went from 104 to 100. I'm thinking, all right, what does this mean? Pull up this chart. This is for the 10-year Optimism Index. Notice that in 2016, if you can see the bottom of it, Rob, it spikes big time.
Who was elected in the fall of 16?
Exactly. So it goes from hovering in the low 90s. Trump gets elected. It's in the hundreds. Wow.
Stays above 103 his
COVID
entire
happens,
administration.
Small businesses, low regulation, lower taxes. They're excited. PBD, you told the story about however long you've been here, how many months you've been here, you're getting $500. You were giving out money like you're freaking Oprah at PHP. The point is this. COVID happens. Biden administration assumes office. Optimism Index tanks. Here's the deal. Trump gets elected. Skyrockets. And this is why you can't trust headlines. In the last month, it's quote unquote plummeted. But if you just take a straight line where you see the number 103, never during the Biden administration was it over 100. So yes, it's lower than usual, but it's way higher under the Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. The average person is being fed fear porn, and it's working with the average person. But unfortunately, the right people saw the Tesla stock and they said, let's buy some stock.
Opportunity, yeah.
Hey, there's things discounted right now. Let's call the shots and pick up a few things right now. This is a good time to buy. Sell, 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 sell. I mean, that's the whole part about
people. We know
people.
that the mainstream media is going to use every tactic they can to make it seem like the sky is falling, Trump's ruining everything.
Buffett said it best. Buy when people are afraid. Sell when people are being greedy. It's very simple. Always pay attention to those indexes. If you drink a lot of coffee, if you drink Arnold Palmer, if you drink hot tea, guess what's officially in? By the way, on the side, Tom may be one of the biggest Yeti fans in the world. So finally, we've been working on this for about 9 months. The Yeti Valuetainment, what do you call these things? Collection is here.
Sick.
Future looks bright. Valuetainment logo on the side. White one, black one. Let me see the white one here. That's pretty sick.
I think that one's a big one.
The white one here with Valuetainment, future looks bright. Just so you know, this is a very limited supply we're doing. This is not 1,000 of these. We got 100 of them. You want them? Go place the order. We may or may not do many more of these. but you will be one of the first ever to have Valuetainment Yeti, especially for those that are using these a lot. Now you can put it at your office while your staff, your team, your family is coming to you. In the front of it says Future Looks Bright, and on the back of it, Valuetainment logo. So go place your order, whether it's the white one, the red one, or the black one. Go to vtmerch.com, place your order for the Yetis before these sell out. They are the best of the best in what they do, and now you can have the best of the best with Future Looks Bright on it. We have a goal of having 1 million people sporting the Future Looks Bright gear around the world. Right now, we're on the 150,000 number. We got 850 more to go. We want 1 million people around the world saying Future Looks Bright. I love hearing stories when people say, I was just in Cabo. I'm poolside and I see these 3 kids showing up. They all got the Future Looks Bright hat. I'm like, how'd you get this? Well, we watched the podcast. It's a great thing when that happens. Go place your order at vtmerch.com. Limited supplies. We'll see if you like it. Maybe we'll bring different ones in the future. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.